Sunrise over Angkor Wat. Breathtaking. Awe-inspiring. Absolutely mobbed by tourists. How can you see all the splendor of Angkor without being crushed by people? I'll show you in today's guide on visiting Angkor. The first thing to understand is that Angkor Wat only refers to a single temple, Angkor Wat, while the whole area of Angkor contains over 1,000 temples. The best temples are organized into two groups, a smaller loop called the Small Tour, and a larger loop called the Big Tour. However, don't let these names fool you. The Small Tour, although covering a smaller distance, is a full-day affair, while the Big Tour visits smaller sites that can be done in about half a day. In addition, a sunrise or sunset can be tacked onto the end of either tour. If you're pressed for time and only have one day, the Small Tour sees all the highlights. Though I do recommend the Big Tour if you have time, as the temples are beautiful in their own right and less crowded. Let's start with the Small Tour and sunrise at Angkor Wat. Tip 1 is to buy your ticket the day before. The ticket office is located in a different part of Siem Reap, and you don't want to waste your morning there, so you can arrive at the sunrise early. Tickets are sold for 1, 3, and 7 days. Your car or tuk-tuk will pick you up at 5 AM for the trip. Tours can be negotiated with any tuk-tuk driver on the street, but I ended up using the driver affiliated with my hotel. Yes, it was $5 more, but he was friendly, patient, helpful, and didn't try to waste my time or sell me anything, so I believe the premium was worth it. Your driver should have water, so all you'll need are appropriate clothes, sunscreen, and bug spray. You arrive in the parking area in the dark and walk to Angkor Wat. Take pictures or GPS coordinates where you park, as it looks very different at night versus during the day. I ended up not being able to find my driver for 30 minutes upon my return. You cross a floating bridge, and about 95% of people turn left and head to the North Pool. Tip number 2. Don't follow them. They are going for that one shot where the sun rises directly over the central tower. But if that isn't critical for you, you should go straight ahead and ultimately to the right.
Should let me go to the right.
By heading this way, you'll arrive at the southern pool, which is significantly less crowded. I was actually able to set up a tripod in the front row, and I arrived fairly late. This was on New Year's Day, as bad as it gets. But if you really want to beat the crowds, circle around the back of Angkor Wat. True, you won't see the sunrise itself, but you'll see the colors of the sunrise hit the temple, which, after all, is the point, isn't it? Tip 3. After the sun has risen, head straight to the center of the temple as fast as you can. You can actually climb the central tower, which represents ascending to Nirvana. However, there are strict capacity controls, and they only allow 100 people up at a time. So if you get there before they open, you'll be in the first batch going up. A quick note here on dress code. Ladies need to have their shoulders and knees covered in all the temples of Angkor. But even men won't be allowed to ascend the central tower if you have shorts above the knee. Dress accordingly. Afterwards, you can explore the whole complex at your leisure. If you don't have a guide, it might be helpful to have visited the Angkor National Museum in Siem Reap first, as there's a great exhibit on Angkor Wat that describes all the various wall carvings. After Angkor Wat, the next stop on the Small Tour is optional, Phnom Penh. It's a pyramid-style temple currently under renovation. It's also one of the sunset viewing areas for Angkor Wat, but often fills up. From there, you cross the South Gate and arrive at Angkor Thom. Angkor Thom is another sprawling complex. Begin at Bayon Temple, which is famous for its faces. It was incredibly beautiful, but at this point mobbed with tourists. From here, walk or ride to Ba Phun, and Phimenikas, stopping at the Terrace of the Elephants and Terrace of the Leopard King. The next big stop is Takai, but if you're up for it, stop by the small temples of Tamanon and Chausai Teuda. These can be explored in only about 10 minutes or so, but are beautiful and free of the tourist hordes. Takai is where most folks break for lunch, though the roadside restaurant was nothing spectacular and overpriced for Cambodia. Next comes another highlight, Ta Prohm. Like many visitors, it is my favorite temple by far. Everyone comes here because it was in the Tomb Raider movie, but the combination of the ruins and overgrown trees is truly breathtaking and makes you feel as if you were discovering a long-lost city. By this point in the afternoon, it is crowded, but wander around the multiple paths through the various courtyards and you'll find breaks in the crowds. Tip number 4. Be sure to coordinate with your driver on pickup and drop-off points. For example, I was dropped off on the west gate and picked up at the east gate of Ta Prohm. This allowed me to roam from one side to the other without backtracking. If you have any energy left, finish the day at Bangti Ktay, which is nearly as beautiful as Ta Prohm, but free from all the crowds. As with Ta Prohm, pickup and drop-off spots are on the opposite ends. After a long day, return to Siem Reap, eat some delicious Khmer food, wash it down with a cheap beer, and prepare for the next day. However, here's tip number 5. If you don't care about the sunrise over Angkor or climbing the central tower, sleep in a bit and do the tour in reverse, counterclockwise. You'll hit Ta Prohm early in the day before the crowds going clockwise arrive, and be at Angkor Wat at the perfect time for sunset if you like. As for the big tour, it begins with the same route, passing Angkor Wat and Angkor Thom, though you won't be stopping. The first stop is Prekan, a beautiful temple that is in a quieter and more secluded part of Angkor. You'll be dropped off on the west side and picked up on the east side near Jayatataka. You'll next visit Ne Pön, a temple located in the middle of the lake. While the site itself is modest, the surrounding water and means of getting there are really special. Next is Ta Saom. If you liked Ta Prohm but thought it was too crowded, Ta Saom is perfect. It also has the overgrown trees, but be sure to walk towards the east end of the temple. At this point, all the temples may start to look alike, but East Mebon is next with its elephant statues on each terrace. Last but not least is Prairu, which turns beautiful colors as the sun sets. So that's Angkor in 2 days. That's all the time I had. I felt as though it was just enough time to really see the highlights, and I don't feel as though I missed anything. I have a fairly high temple tolerance, so one day may be sufficient for you. There's plenty of other activities in Siem Reap, from shooting guns and genocide memorials to floating markets. But if your goal is to see Angkor, 2 days is enough. It really was an incredible experience, and it lived up to all of my expectations. The Cambodian people are wonderful, the food delicious, and I highly recommend a visit. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like and subscribe for more travel and flight reviews, and I'll see you in the next one.